We're talking about Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan. And if you saw him yesterday, he had an accoutrement on, designer, customized suit, some kind of yellow, what would you call it, scarf around his neck while he was looking up at the solar eclipse.
Yeah, very metrosexual he is.
Oh, my God, he is. He loves himself. And people have asked questions like, is he chasing tail? Is he a homosexual? And I tell them, no, this guy loves himself. There's no doubt. There's nobody who could ever equal or surpass Eric Adams. I mean, he wakes up looking at himself in the mirror. He goes to sleep looking at himself in the mirror. I don't know. Sid Rosenberg is just like him. That's why they get along sometimes. But now, all of a sudden, let me take you back to Thanksgiving. As a result of Kathy Hochul extending, what was the act that she extended for a year that allowed people to come forward and file notice of claim that they may have an intention to sue somebody for sexual harassment, sexual assault?
So this is the Adult Survivors Act. So initially the way that the law worked, you would have 1 year to charge anything criminal, and then up to 3 years to file a civil lawsuit related to something. And these relate specifically to sex crimes, so anything like rape. And then in 2019, they changed the law. And what happened was now it's 20 years. You have 20 years, but the 20 years applies to the civil element of it, right? So the criminal still has to be within a short period of time, right? Because for purposes of defense and being able to defend yourself. But the only thing is it didn't go back retroactively. So there was all these people within a certain period of time where they said, well, I don't qualify. So anyway, this was clearly a creature to make a very specific case happen so that out of nowhere, there's this 1 year window where you can just open up this free-for-all in terms of civil liability, and anyone from any walk can just bring a case, and all of a sudden, thousands of cases have spurred up. But the big one is the Trump one.
E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah, she started the wave.
Never trust anybody with three names. And this was done specifically to help in the prosecution of Donald Trump, which I think anybody looking at that case says, are you kidding? He raped her in a change stall in Bergdorf Goodman. He was right across the street in the Trump Tower. Everybody knew this guy at the time. He was like Mr. New York City. There were like 5 people you always saw on TV at that time. Rudy Giuliani, the schmuck, the putz, Chuck E. Cheese Schumer, Al Slim Shady Sharpton, Donald Trump, and Curtis Sliwa, right? We were like lens lights. If it was a crime to be on television, they would have locked us all up in the same cell. Everybody knew the Donald. I mean, everybody. And he was right in his backyard. So this was done specifically by the Democrats to get Donald Trump. And I remember Cuomo was applauding Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams. That's right, that's right. And boy, did it come back to bite them in their ass. Cuomo ended up getting sued by one of his many accusers. And then Eric Adams was notified, this was just a notice, that they potentially might sue him for sexual assault right by the time of Thanksgiving. And this is what he said back in Thanksgiving.
I don't recall ever meeting this person. I need to be clear on that. And so, this is something that the process is going to take its place.
Okay, so never met her, don't know who she is.
Well, and notice how smart of an answer that was, actually. He doesn't recall, right? So you can still backtrack from that one. Oh, I did. I just didn't recall. Okay, go ahead. That's
all
good.
Right, and I give him the benefit of the doubt because there are a lot of frivolous.
That's a little bit of a sneaky answer, but go ahead.
Hey, look, a lot of frivolous lawsuits. I understood that. And then Corporation Counsel jumped in the form of Lisa Zornberg, who basically just dismissed it. As, come on. Why are we even talking about this?
Let me just add to that. Neither the mayor nor the city have been served with the summons that became public, I think, on the morning of Thanksgiving. No complaint has been filed.
And that was true. And then right away they said, that the woman involved, they wouldn't mention her name, has had a series, a history of filing lawsuits, Dade County school system against Delta Airlines. In fact, she had published a book, self-published a book, about how you could represent yourself pro se in court.
My first lawsuit.
Right. So look, it looked like, yeah. That's why I didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
And you know me, I'm like all over Eric Adams. But then all of a sudden, she has an attorney, and she filed. And oh boy, it was chock full of details. In fact, the reporters were like now going off on wanting to know, wait, I thought you said you didn't know this woman.
How do you explain how specific those details are?
And so Corporation Counsel jumped in now at his weekly press conference at times, because he only takes off-topic questions once a week because he can't chew gum and think at the same time. He has to prepare a week like Biden does, to handle any kind of questions. The Corporation Counsel jumped right in on that question and said the following.
Your question implies something different from what happened.
And everybody was wondering, wow, there's a lot of details in this. Just give us some of the tidbits of information of this lawsuit in which a woman not only came forward publicly, didn't mind her name being used, but has an attorney of note representing her.
Well, so initially it seems like the reason she reached out to Eric Adams, and I believe it was really in his capacity as the Guardian's, sort of this wing of proactive people who are affiliated with the NYPD, and they're sort of helping avoid any discrimination or things like that. So,
basically black police officers.
Yeah, so holding themselves out as we're aware of the situation could be happening, and if you need help, we're the people who can sort of put it together and help you figure out what to do. So that's the basis in terms of why she was approaching him. So apparently she had sought redress herself, and because she wasn't getting that. So again, there's a paper trail to some extent of whatever she might have been doing, whoever she might have been reaching out to previously where she wasn't getting redress. And then obviously, since this is an organization affiliated, they're used to redressing problems, she would have reached out to them and said, look, I have a problem. I need to talk to someone. Maybe they can help me. So clearly that's going to be something that you can verify, that she was reaching out to public, people in power to address, why am I not getting promoted, even though otherwise I'm qualified and, I'm being passed over.
Black female police officer. She's also, through her attorney, suing the Guardians Association and the NYPD, which suggests that there were people who were aware of this, that if it goes to trial, they're going to bring forward to testify to dispute the fact that Eric Adams didn't know this woman, or what was that sort of Bill Clinton term he used, parsing his language?
Oh, he doesn't recall having met her, right? So that's not, a line in the sand, I never met this woman. It's like, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but my memory doesn't go back that far. So that's a pretty, lawyerly type answer that you would anticipate.
Okay, so this lawsuit is filled with a lot of details we're not going to go into, because it talks about how he wanted to be orally fixated, he wanted to be pleasurized, he was in a car with her along the West Side Highway, and in fact, virtually demanded it. Now, if in fact that's true, obviously the woman is going to have to prove this in court through her attorney, but what we thought, don't take it seriously, I don't really know this woman, we got it. Corporation Counsel is representing me. There are 900 lawyers employed by the city of New York, many of them with nothing to do and nowhere to go other than settle cases. Settle. They don't even attempt to take it to trial. They just have a stamp, settle. Give away taxpayers' money.
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of the Corporation Counsel, right? So they have 750 attorneys who represent the city workers. So the basis upon which the mayor now is entitled to the lawyer is because he was a transit officer at the time. Now, the city has been obligated to represent former transit police since the department merged with NYPD in 1995. So that's what they're sort of hanging their hat on, his previous affiliation with that.
So he gets qualified immunity. Cuomo gets qualified immunity when he was governor, but they wanted to strip it from police. So now,
yes,
the big story yesterday is the city Corporation Counsel, on behalf of Eric Adams, hires a hired gun, who charges $2,000 an hour. Attorney Spiro He's represented Jay-Z, Elon Musk. You can go a laundry list of freakazoids, jet setters, trendoids. And it turns out they're hiring the hired gun. And again, we, the taxpayers, have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. What the hell is this?
Yeah, and so the usual rate for this really high-profile attorney is $2,000 an hour. And according to the Corporation Counsel, they're only going to be charging $250 an hour or a lesser amount for associates. But, that seems to fly in the face of logic. Why would you, as a high-profile attorney who does have these big clients, be willing to take such a cut in your usual rates?
Oh,
Just very not normal.
That's an in-kind campaign donation. That's illegal. He wants favors, quid pro quos from Frank Carone, who is the bag man who fundraises and is a lobbyist for everything that Eric Adams does. His legal defense fund, his attempt to become mayor again over my dead body, 2025.
Well, that would make sense too then, because the affiliation with him being attorney for Jay-Z and the close connection with Carone and Jay-Z in terms of trying to get the casino in the Midtown.
Times Square.
Yeah.
With the help of Bratton and Mark Green's brother who owns the real estate there. You see, ladies and gentlemen, follow the money. Follow the money. This has nothing to do with what's right or wrong. All of a sudden, all of these forces come together. Why would Eric Adams need a hired gun attorney if this was a nothing case, frivolous lawsuit, a person he didn't even know?
Yeah, and it's funny because they really try to backtrack a little bit. Like, oh, well, they're still going to be representing him primarily. This is the Corporation Counsel. But in certain cases, we bring outside assistance. So they needed the big guns. And they're trying to say, we're just so busy with so many lawsuits against the city, we don't have time to focus on Eric Adams cases.
They don't fight lawsuits. It's not like it was with Rudy. Rudy said, hey, you battle the lawsuit. You battle, win or draw. All they do is they have a stamp on their desk, settle, 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 settle. Mm-hmm. Because remember, ultimately, the lawyers for the complainants get a third. And then they go out and have some drinks, they go have some dinner, and it's all synergistic.
Well, yeah, and if it was his money, if it was his actual legal defense fund, I think he might be a little bit more concerned about how much this lawyer is charging, but it's a taxpayer money, so he doesn't care.
Of course, you're all suckers anyway. And by the way, we can't survive without Eric Adams, who is now being investigated at 3 levels. Turkish money that he took from Erdogan, Chinese money that he took from President Xi, now sexual harassment and sexual assault, and with a high-profile attorney that we have to pay $2,000 an hour for to keep Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, from going bankrupt. Hey, like they say, come on, Eric. It's time. When you mess up, you got to fess up. And up next, you're not going to believe this. The City of New York Police Department and Eric Adams are spending all their capital in broadcasting and getting the news out and saying it is a perception of crime. Perception of crime. They did it again earlier today through the police commissioner, Caban. Eric Adams just had a press conference. That's all he was saying, perception of crime, perception. And I'm going to hit James Flippin with a crime that I think everybody out there can realize has never occurred before in a place where these kind of crimes never occurred. And let me tell you something, Eric Adams, Caban, and everyone else who's spinning that propaganda at City Hall, perception is reality.